ground rules for tonight and the flow of the event. We're going to begin with a brief presentation by Heather Woodfield of the 1% for Culture campaign. This presentation is to give you an overview of that project. We will not be going into the 1% campaign in depth this evening in the town hall portion, but Heather will be here afterwards for you if you'd like to ask her questions, and I believe that she will also give you contact information that you need in case you're interested in following up. We will then hear a brief overview from a coalition of groups about a property tax relief idea they've been organizing with the community boards of Manhattan. After that presentation, we'll jump right into the open discussion. Jeremy Hoffman, a lobbyist with the firm of State and Broadway, will be on hand during the discussion to make sure we have accurate information about the political process and to frame these activities in a larger context of building community power. All through the event, the ICES team will be working. We have Lise Brenner, the ICES Associate Director. Lise, can you raise your hand? She's available to answer your questions and listen to your feedback. We have Jill Smith, who will be taking notes, which we will be making available to everyone. We have Elena Phillips, who handled the check-in and will be a roving flip camera reporter to speak with you afterwards. And a special thank you to volunteer Sandra Glazer. We'd also like to extend a welcome to Maurizio Dauphin of Cultural Peru, who will soon be posting on our website an English language version blog on Latin American cultural policy. And welcome to Dr. Karen Yer, a researcher, writer, and manager specializing in the creative industries, who will talk to us briefly at the end of the event about data. Finally, we will stop at 7:55 to have you fill out your questionnaires before you leave. But then you are welcome to stay, mingle, network, and ask questions afterwards. Please be aware that this event is being filmed by multiple cameras and will be made available at least in part as a webcast. Please be civil and to the point when you speak. Wait until you're called on and listen to what other people are saying. So let's jump right in with Heather Woodfield from 1% for Culture.
Thank you to Paul and ICES for having us here. 1% for Culture is a pretty simple idea. It's a campaign, nonprofit, nonpartisan, 5-borough, reaching into all of our neighborhoods to increase the city funding for culture. City funding for culture has been on an incredible decline for the past 10 years, and right now it's less than a quarter of 1% of the budget, and in budget hearings right now to face an even more drastic cut this year, which hopefully will be changed. And instead of slowly, fighting for those last bits that they take away, we want to go to the city and say they should give a full 1% of the city budget in support of culture. So just going to hit you with a couple of quick facts, which are that, and I think that some of these facts are very underestimated. That's my belief, and I know that Paul and ICES and some of their work is to help quantify some of these things on a more community basis. So there are over 1,200 nonprofit cultural institutions in New York City. There are thousands of artists. There's $7.6 billion in economic impact. And I think this is the lowest figure of all, and that there's over 54,000 jobs created by that sector. And the current budget is about $149 million for fiscal year 11. And part and parcel of that, grant making has also dropped. In 2009, it dropped by 8.4%, which is the largest it's dropped since they've been recording it. So clearly, we are all grabbing at bits and pieces of the funding, and that really needs to change. And if we look at what's going on nationally and even globally, cultural and arts funding is being cut everywhere, and New York City is a cultural capital. And if we can't set an example in increasing arts funding, how is this going to happen on a national and a global level? But the good news is we have some excellent, amazing poll results. There was a poll done by Global Strategies in July of 2010, reaching registered voters through all 5 boroughs, and 94% of people said that cultural institutions personally impact them. 82% support an increase to 1% of the budget. 48% said they were more likely to vote for a candidate if they supported 1% for culture. And my favorite of all is that 56% said they would pay higher taxes. When do you hear that? That's very, very exciting. So we're going to do this by delivering 5,000 signatures per council district, 50 letters of support, and an ever-growing coalition of cultural institutions, artists, business, civic, and cultural leaders throughout New York City. And take these and deliver them to our council candidates and our mayoral candidates in 2013 and ask them to sign a pledge for 1% for culture. We won't be endorsing candidates, but we will be calling out very publicly who is willing to support 1% for culture. And a larger part of this, and something that I really believe in, is to how do we make this broader to the community? How do we engage the community in this? How do we present a clear, concise, and compelling message that communicates the scope of New York City's cultural community, the value of all its participants, and the need to increase city funding for culture? And this is where we really need your help. We are looking at sculpting the message in 2013, what that message will be that we deliver to our council members. We are asking people to become coalition partners, and I firmly believe that the more grassroots, community, local institutions that sign on as coalition partners, the more we make a case for funding for a broader span of culture in New York City, that people can volunteer, and I hope that by volunteering it will empower artists and people within the cultural community to learn to advocate for themselves, to make relationships in politics that'll hopefully benefit them, to start a community conversation. We're going to be launching some fun social media and integration in ways that people can be part of the dialogue and really participate. And we're having a great events calendar, and we'd love to promote any free or low-cost cultural event that's very interesting. And I really want this to be a conversation. I want to bring people into it. I want their ideas. So I am so happy to talk to all of you, to get your feedback. If you don't like the idea at all, it's really great, because those start the best conversations and come up with the best answers. We have limited bandwidth and resources, but within that, we want to be open and bring in the community as much as possible. So I hope that you will join us in supporting. I'm here, Alfred is here, Dan, who just joined us today as our volunteer coordinator, are here, and we're happy to answer your questions, and we have some forms, literature, anything you might want to know.
Do you have a form with the website on it?
We have a form with the website on it and information about the campaign. We also have ways you can join the coalition and sign the appeal, and if you just want to take my card and contact me, I'd love to talk to all of you.
Thank you.
So now we're going to move directly to the Performing Arts Coalition that has grown from a meeting that happened at the Players Club 2 years ago. It was community boards 1 through 5's arts committees put on a community board congress on small to mid-sized theaters. I moderated, and 300 people showed up at that. And one of the ideas was kicked around there. The arts committees, led indefatigably by David Pincus, have been working on for the last 2 years.
Thanks, Paul. Hello, everybody. It's so great to see you all. Before I begin, I just wanted to give a shout out. We do have a living icon of the American theater in the front row, Judith Molina, and I just think it's wonderful that you're here. She was kind of leading the charge of the Players 2 years ago, and it was exciting to hear her rabble-rouse, and I expect probably a little bit something from her tonight, who knows. But as Paul said, 2 years ago, this whole mess started. Because we did have Scott Stringer, the borough president. He came up and he gave a shout out to the assembled horde, saying, you know, you come up with a good idea and you challenge our electeds with it. And as a result, in the last 2 years, especially with the people that are sitting at this table, have been working extraordinarily hard, coming up with a smart, focused idea that may work. And I think, and I don't think, its time has come. The moment for the political will to advocate for not only the performing arts, we're taking baby steps right now with the performing arts, but the idea is to see if it works, and it's going to work with the help of every single person in this room. We're going to talk a little bit about the idea about how individuals and organizations can support a political advocacy movement, and we'll get into that. But we don't think it's hard. We don't think it's going to take a whole lot of time. We think it's just going to be a lot of kind of, you know, Facebook forwards and clicks and calls and emails, but a real commitment to do so. How many folks know the nuts and bolts of the tax abatement proposal that we're kind of talking about? Just a show of hands if you have a general idea. Okay, it's Metza. Basically, we're in a time of economic chaos in the entire world, okay? Funding for the arts is kind of, it's down a little bit low at the moment, which makes this the perfect time for us to start doing the groundwork in order to pursue our objectives. And that groundwork has been taking place for 2 years. So all of us at this table, we were meeting in little work sessions, trying to come up with a tightly focused idea that would make a difference for a small, the idea that we could sell it to the electeds. We could sell it so we don't feel like we're bankrupting the state by an ask that will actually, we think, may do a significant aid to small to mid-sized nonprofit performing arts organizations. There's about 100 or so venues in the entire city of New York that kind of offer their space as a creative home to hundreds of other organizations that don't have the ability to sustain a creative home. So when we're talking about a refocus of our priorities, right now there's a lot of funding for one-act play series and performing arts series and this series and that's fantastic. And the DCA and NISCA are wonderful organizations, and the people who run these organizations, they're the bomb. They're working hard every day for all of us. But we have a new idea, which is like, what happens if we support the venues that actually provide a stage, that have lights, grids, nice seats, air conditioning, two HVAC, two means of egress. Because when we lose them, these venues, which we've been losing by the dozens and dozens, okay, it's really hard to reconstitute them. Once the grid comes down, once the lights disappear, once the velvet-covered seats go away, those are resources that are kind of gone for the most part. And we have to figure out a way, let's find a way to protect those venues. And if you protect those venues, then you're protecting the hundreds of other theater companies that make use of those venues. And we try to make it a little bit easier for them to survive on a day-to-day basis. I used to run a theater company for many, many years, and I'll tell you, my property tax bill, which was around $10,000 or $11,000 last year, that represented a 13th month rent. There's another issue which we're not really going to talk about tonight, but it's about Con Ed rates. And we're not going to talk about it because there's so much more to explore, but when you write a check to Con Ed, that represents almost a 14th month of bills because we're being charged the highest level of commercial use. There's ideas out there that are percolating that maybe just small changes can encourage enormous savings to small theaters, companies that don't have money. So that's kind of the idea we're talking about. And the exciting thing that's happened is that we've been working with, for the first time ever, a coalition of art support groups, starting with Art New York, Ginny Lulu-Wittes, who is unfortunately extremely ill, but she's fine. She just needs to chill out at home. She's being represented by Catherine Porter here. We have, there's Jeremy, who will introduce to you in a second. We have Paul Bargetto from League of Independent Theater, which is an advocacy group for all the theaters in New York. We have Nick Mucosi with Independent Theater Foundation, and they've done incredible work categorizing and profiling the economics of our sector. So I'd like to just introduce each one of them to talk a little bit about this coalition, a first-time coalition we've all formed together in support of this one tax abatement idea. I think it's really smart. I think it's brilliant that we're all together, and we need to take advantage of this moment in time. So I'd like to turn the mic to Nick Mucosi of Independent Theater Foundation.
Thank you. I'm Nick Mucosi from the Innovative Theater Foundation. It's okay, independent. We represent it all. You know, it really doesn't matter what you call indie, off-Broadway, innovative. It's all the same. So we